Scott from 90 Plus Cellars, and we're here in beautiful Linscott Park in Swampscott, Massachusetts for our Wine Trucks Sessions. And I'm here with my guest, Maia Gosselin, owner of Sip Wine Education and wine educator extraordinaire, as I like to call her.
Thank
How are you, Maia?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Pleasure to have you on board here as we talk about wines for transitioning into fall.
Yes.
It's inevitable. Summer will come to an end. We are going to have shorter days. We are going to have cooler weather. And as those seasons change, we need to maybe evolve our wine choices. And so, maybe a little less kind of crisp, kind of cold and, energizing, and more into the, subtle, more kind of nuanced flavors of fall.
Yes. Fall always brings to mind for me just that beautiful hodgepodge of flavors, spices, things baking, stews on the stovetop, along with thinking about Halloween and tailgating and outdoor sports, fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
And all those nice occasions for maybe drinking wine outside in cool weather, just so you're definitely transitioning a little bit, but happily so. Yes.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful, the changes of seasons are always a great thing. They allow for us to do some things that are new and exciting again as the weather changes. And so, speaking of new and exciting again, we're going to start with a gently sparkling red wine, a Lambrusco, from Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. And the reason why I say this is exciting again is because Lambrusco was once the rage, right?
Yes.
Decades ago in the 80s, where people seemed to be able to, not get enough of the sweet, fizzy
sweet
wine.
Yep.
But it became kind of a caricature of itself, right? In terms of a wine produced for the masses, sort of like a soft drink in a way, and really got away from its origins. And its origins in this part of Italy are really one in which you have amazingly kind of balanced, sparkling wines with a lot of freshness to them, a little bit of sweetness that go with the amazing foods of the area. The prosciutto, the cheeses, the Parmesan. I mean, wines that you can just easily sip as an aperitif. So Lambrusco can be a wonderful aperitif, especially with some prosciutto, some Parmigiana. Wonderfully kind of rich and luscious foods to be enjoy with something that's kind of crisp and bubbly.
Yes, this is a great example of drinking a place.
Absolutely.
So you're pairing the food and the wine of the region. And I would just point out what you were, just to sort of go with what you were talking about Lambrusco in the 80s. With the overproduction, you did see this huge deterioration of quality. The more they made of it, the sweeter, the sugarier, the lower the quality of grapes, because anytime you make a glut of wine, of course, if there's no restriction on how much you can make, quality always goes down.
Absolutely.
That's why you like to see limits. And over the last few years, that's really come back sort of full circle. So now you've got these much more higher quality select styles of Lambrusco that we're able to enjoy.
So let's taste it. What do you think?
Yes.
So as you can see, really wonderful purple color. Lots of frothy bubbles there.
And Lambrusco is the name of the grape as well, correct?
Yes.
So you're drinking a region and a grape.
A region and a grape.
Oh,
And so lots of color, lots of deep color, lots of sparkle, lots of aroma. Kind of beautiful, like cherry,
Bright
fragrant
berry.
cherry aroma.
Great
And
acidity.
yeah, just a lot of freshness. Like
Yes.
a lot of freshness. If you're thinking about rich foods as a way to kind of refresh your palate, Lambrusco is a classic, wine to pair, and I think it's an adventurous wine to have,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
I think that, I like to say people find comfort in the familiar and adventure in what's new. And now's a good time when you're at home, maybe. We're still going to be having small gatherings at home in the fall. If you want to try something new, if you want to try something tasty that will really please, you can please them with a small glass of Lambrusco.
And this is sort of the time of year, as we were saying, with transitioning to fall. Maybe put your beloved Prosecco aside
Sure.
for a moment, not forever, but for a minute, and venture out. Of course, you're staying in Italy, so and this is made in the Charmat method, but this has much less carbonation. It's more like you were saying, frizzante style. So not full carbonation, not too big of a pop on the bubbles.
Very gentle, kind of texturally.
But again, just so drinkable and refreshing. But when I think of what to pair this with for fall foods, I like to think of rustic pizzas. Definitely rustic pizza, but I also like it with chili. I like how that's sort of like cool, like the nice acidity tang, and then like that nice crack of chili with some nice chips in there.
Anything that has some spice to it, I find sparkling wine is a great pairing. And anything with some spice and some weight, Lambrusco would be an excellent pairing for that type of dish.
Yes, and this is also a bit lower in alcohol, right?
Yes, much lower. So you don't have that, you won't be floored by 2 glasses of Lambrusco with your chili.
It's off dry, right?
Yes, off dry. It does have some sweetness, but that sweetness is really balanced with all that refreshing acidity.
Right.
So it's like biting into a nice, fresh piece of fruit. People who are a little bit shy away from sweet wines, recognize that this sugar is just a part of the grape, and if you don't ferment out all that sugar, you're going to have some retention of that sugar in the liquid. As long as it's balanced with the acidity, the freshness of the fruit, you're going to get a wonderfully balanced wine that, while it does have some sweetness, will not taste syrupy sweet.
Right. Yes.
And will still go with food. It's a great pairing for the fall.
And sparkling red wine, significant upcoming big trend, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in it right now, but I think it's going to continue to grow in popularity as people sort of, try and sample styles like this that really open up a new kind of wine for them.
Absolutely. So get adventurous this fall. Grab yourself a bottle of Lambrusco and enjoy it with your friends. I assure you they will not be disappointed. Moving on. We're going to move on to France, and we're going to move on to Burgundy or Bourgogne. And we're going to feature the 2 grapes that are native to this area of France, which is south of Dijon, kind of north of Lyon, kind of in the internal part of France. Really an important part of the wine world. It's hard for me to think of a more important region to the wine world.
I would agree.
Than Burgundy. And we're talking about the home of Chardonnay. We're talking about the home of Pinot Noir, where these grapes originated. And nobody does it better than the Burgundians. And the thing, I like to make sure people understand about Burgundy is the small scale nature of it, how small it is, how intimate the wine production is there, and how that size, or that lack of size, and that intimacy translates into a wonderful array of nuanced wines that is determined based on where those grapes are grown and who has made them and the way they treat them. And there's really nothing quite as magical, I think, as Burgundy in general. And as we transition into the fall, as we want our flavors to be a little bit more nuanced, our white wines maybe not quite as cold, and our red wines not quite as full, these wines have so much really to offer.
It's tradition and heritage.
Absolutely.
That's the absolute benchmark for it, in my opinion. So when people ask me what my favorite area is or my favorite style of wine, that can often change depending on the day, but I think tried and true for me is Burgundy. It's probably one of my top all-time beloved regions for all the different kinds of Chardonnay that you can have from there, and all the different styles of Pinot Noir from the different smaller appellations within Burgundy. So we'll start off with this.
I completely agree. I have to completely agree with you, and we're going to start with this Chardonnay, the Bourgogne Chardonnay.
So Chardonnay, of course, is the queen of grapes, and it can be, sometimes a hard sell for people who have grown tired or they have California fatigue.
Absolutely.
So a Burgundian Chardonnay is the grape itself is the same, but it's because it's known as this queen of grapes. It grows globally, prolifically, and it takes on the personality, of course, of the region and the terroir of where it comes from.
Right.
So all those things play. If you if you are tired of California, you will love Burgundy.
I would agree. I think Chardonnay is probably my favorite white grape, and it ripens easily. So it can ripen anywhere, and that's why it's planted in most places in the world. But just because it can be planted in most places in the world doesn't mean it should be planted in most places in the world. And the thing about Burgundy in kind of this northern continental climate, which has a little bit of a cooler climate, you have more preservation of freshness and acidity. You don't quite have the ripeness, the alcohol, and the fatness, and even the sweetness sometimes that you get with some domestic Chardonnays from the West Coast. That gives this wine a whole new flavor profile and texture than what you would find from California Chardonnay. And the other thing about Chardonnay is it's often considered the kind of the blank slate of grapes. Where it's grown and how it's made really determines how it tastes, not the varietal. There's a limited varietal character to the wine, and so where it's grown, how it's made, and how it's matured really has an effect on the taste of the wine. And so let's see how this one tastes.
One of my happy place wines. So beautiful.
So lots of crisp apple, lemon, citrus. This wine spends some time in oak barrel post fermentation, so you pick up a little bit of the oak, but it's not overly done. It's naturally done in real barrels. You have some of that. We talked about it before in the last episode with some of the lees stirring like Muscadet. This wine spends some time on the lees, on the expired yeast cells, which gives it a little bit of creaminess or toastiness. So you have these layers of citrus, orchard fruit, plus this toastiness, creaminess in the wine, which kind of extends into the long finish, along with that crisp acidity. And you just get a white wine that is, you can kind of sit back, enjoy a glass, and not rush through it.
This incredible personality in this wine. So I usually think of my wines with personality. This is another elegant wine, but also approachable. You could just drink a glass of this. You could pair this with food. And I think that sort of minimal oak aging is one of my favorite parts about this. So I don't like an over oaked. I don't like the heavy oak bombs, the butter bombs, all that, which I think is the opposite end of the spectrum of what we're discussing right now. But this is just that sort of, it's clean in many ways. It's so food friendly as well. Food, I would put this with oysters too, maybe oysters Rockefeller perhaps. A baked haddock, something with a little more structure and weight to it. Maybe roasted chicken. Fall foods as well. But I think also it's important to mention, of course, that Burgundy 200 million years ago was this Mediterranean sea, so the soil in Burgundy is perhaps the most legendary in the world for all the soils that there are. And soil, of course, is just, you think, why is dirt important? Well, it plays a tremendous role, but the soil in Burgundy is rich in these fossils that have just been there for millions of years, and when they till that soil, these fossils come up, and shell fossils, marine fossils, and they do sort of infuse their personality as well into the ultimate creation of these gorgeous wines.
In particular, Chardonnay loves limestone, loves chalk. It really offers something unique, within that type of soils. So this matching of grape variety to soil, to location, to climate is something that you really can't find in many other places to the extent that you can find it in Burgundy. And I think all the other wine regions of the world want to kind of discover what the and achieve what the Burgundians have achieved in this sense.
Yep. So it's Burgundy and then everyone else.
So let's continue with Burgundy and let's move on to the other grape.
Okay.
The red grape of Burgundy, Pinot Noir. Let's just get to pouring right away.
Perfect.
So Pinot Noir, as you can see, a lot of people will say that Pinot Noir is a little bit too light, or not quite as heavy or as robust as, let's say, Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a Bordeaux variety, not a Burgundian variety. And it's right. I mean, Pinot Noir doesn't have the thick skins that Cabernet has. It has thinner skins. It has small berries for the most part. It's much easier to ripen than Cabernet Sauvignon. It can produce many different styles of wines, but here, kind of in its homeland, it produces wines with that are balanced between kind of the texture of the wine, the acidity, and the fruitiness. And you can, just like the Chardonnay, when you put it in the right place, when you grow it in the right area, and you match it up with a talented winemaker and treat it well, it produces wines that express its place probably more so than any other red grape varietal.
Absolutely. And with the explosion of the popularity of Pinot Noir over the last 15 years domestically, I think it's kind of taken a lot of people away from the awareness that Burgundy, red Burgundy, is the original
Right,
Pinot Noir,
right.
but also it is Pinot Noir. So you've got that
Right.
lack of understanding sometimes with this. Pinot Noir is popular here as the grape varietal, and then if you're drinking red Burgundy, you are drinking Pinot Noir.
Absolutely.
So I think that it kind of gets lost in translation sometimes.
And I think if you like Pinot Noir, do yourself a favor. And if you've never had one from Burgundy, you've got to try it. You've got to try a wine from its original place, the place where it comes from, right? You owe that to yourself to say, okay, well, I like Sonoma Pinot Noir, I like Oregon Pinot Noir, I like maybe Central Coast of California Pinot Noir. Let me try one where it all started. And I guarantee you, the wine you're drinking from, whether it's Oregon, California, or elsewhere, the winemaker that made that was thinking about Burgundy.
Yes, and they probably studied there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, let's get a taste of this. It's beautiful earthiness.
Yeah, a freshness to the wine, a texture, a tannic structure that is not quite as heavy as, let's say, Cabernet Merlot, Malbec. Not anywhere near as heavy as those. But when you want a wine that you can just enjoy a glass of, or two, or maybe three even, or with somebody that you like, or with people that you like, that's who, there's no sense sharing a bottle of Burgundy with someone that you don't like, I guess you could say.
No, I wouldn't waste it with someone I don't care for.
And this is probably not the wine you want to share with someone who puts ice in it. Although, those are, there's time and place for that as well.
Time and place.
It's really, if you want to understand kind of the essence of Pinot Noir and the essence of place, I think, do yourself a favor and get yourself a bottle of red Burgundy.
And this is so beautiful. It has that elegant structure to it. I love elegant wines. I know I say that term before, but there's going to be some violet in there and that earthiness and the red berry that you mentioned. And I would just make a note about contrasting this with that explosion in popularity of Pinot Noir.
Right.
You also have a lot of bad Pinot Noir,
right.
Unfortunately. So it's a very delicate grape, as you mentioned. It is temperamental in its conditions. But when we as consumers want something, we want it on demand, we want it fast.
Right.
It's not a grape that responds well to those sort of winemaking techniques. So you do need a little finesse. You need time. You need to, kind of coax it along. And then you get the result is this wine versus something that's sort of a flash in the pan, overdone quick. Yes,
it's a difference between kind of fast food, right?
Exactly.
And good cuisine.
Yes. One little movie called Sideways. It had an explosion gave birth to all of that, as I like to say. But for food, one of my favorite pairings is it's sort of grilled or roasted salmon. It's just, I think that they work so beautifully together. And then pretty much anything that has a mushroom note to it, mushroom sauce, mushroom stuffing. I also do like Pinot Noir with Thanksgiving as well. You kind of can't go wrong with that. It's a tried and true. But again, in the fall, cool weather, maybe you're going trick-or-treating, you want a little glass of wine to take with you.
I hope so. I don't know if we'll have trick-or-treating, but I will have my treat.
But I would this would be my treat. This would be my this is my absolute take-along treat for a beautiful example of the Burgundy, the red Burgundy there.
I think we've concluded this wine truck session by 90 Plus Cellars. I'm Brett Van Koski. This is Maia Gosselin. We're here at beautiful Linscott Park in Swampscott, Massachusetts. If you want to tune into more wine truck sessions, visit our Instagram page. And if you want to tune into what Maia is doing, tune into her social media at
Sip Wine Education on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
There you have it, folks. Here's to fall.
Here's to fall. Cheers.